Thank you. So we're very glad to be here in Singapore with you. We are from Russia. We are from Strategic Music Company. Our company was founded in 2003, and since that time we make music, sound design, and voiceovers for computer games. Actually, we call our job atmosphere games. We make audio atmosphere for them. And in our portfolio are such titles as Cut the Rope, Doodle God, Amazing Breaker, Blossex, or Birds of Steel, etc., etc., etc. Many, many different games for different platforms. So, as you all know, every day there are many projects released. And here goes the very important and an easy question: how to make your game stand above the rest, how to make it not blend into this giant crowd. And we believe that we know the answer. It's the audio atmosphere which helps developers to make exactly their games to stand out of the crowd. So what is the atmosphere? As I told you, it's sound, music, and voiceovers. In and all of these three elements, they have their only unique features, and it's very important to combine these three elements of the atmosphere properly, and this way you will create a strong link between a player and a game based on the player's emotional experience. Okay, so let's talk about these elements really quick because we don't have much time. So the music. Music has a real unique feature. It can be memorized and recited by people, by the players. And so you can't do this thing with anything else. You can't sing a picture while taking a shower, can you? I think no. But I'm pretty sure that all of you have experienced this situation. Imagine yourself like you're going down the streets or you are driving and suddenly you caught yourself singing or humming a melody, and you start thinking about it, and you realize then that this melody, it's from a game you have played recently before. So what does it mean to a game? It means that the music from the game, it advertises the game for the developers, and it does it absolutely for free. Let's have a quick experiment. So this is pretty simple melody. Let's try to memorize it. Let's listen to it again. Now let's try to forget it. I think it won't be easy. So this is the way how it works. Okay, so in conclusion, the music advertises the game. One of the functions of the music is to advertise games. Okay, sound design. We've been dealing with lots of developers all over the world, and I can tell you that most of the developers, they think that the only purpose of sounds is to indicate some game events. So developers think that the sound design is something like formal, which has to be in the game to maybe to fulfill some terms and conditions of some contract and nothing more. But we, in our studio, we think that there is something more than just indicating of game events. We believe that the purpose, the main feature of sound design is to entertain people, because games are entertaining projects, right? So, and in every lecture of mine, I always tell the simple phrase that people, they do love sounds. We do love sounds in our everyday life. Like we do technical sounds, like a cocking of a shotgun, or we like when a powerful engine purrs. We like all these cutie sounds of jewelry box opening, or cats meowing, or babies giggling, etc., etc., etc. So we do love to listen to sounds, if they are cool, over and over again. And why don't we use this amazing feature in our games? Let's be clear, and I've got another little experiment. So let's listen to these sounds, and we'll think if we like them or not. There is something wrong with the sounds, actually. So they are quite informative, and they are quite disturbing. Let's listen to some other sounds. Let's listen to the whole chain of sounds. Do you see any difference between these sounds and this one? I think there is some difference. Sounds can be edible. This is a very important thing. People, we think that sounds are should be like little tasty morsels. So for the player's ears, let's listen again. Let's compare it again. Which sounds do you think people like the most? I think like that. Okay, so sounds can be edible. Then, it is very important to combine sounds and music, and it's not so easy to do. Let's make another experiment. So imagine that you have very cool composers, very professional sound designers, and they made for you music and sound design. The music is okay, sound design is just great. So let's try to combine these two elements together. Okay, here's the music. Music is quite atmospheric, it sounds rich, and here are the sounds we're listening to recently. Something's wrong with the audio system, by the way. Okay, so let's combine these two elements. It's hard to listen to it, but there is something wrong with the sounds and music combined together. But what? You know, musicians have a special term, the key. Every music track has its own key, like C minor, D major, E flat minor, and all that. And every sound, if it has some musical elements, has the key again. And of course these two keys have to be the same. And it's very important when the guys who work on music and sounds, they collaborate with each other during the whole development of the audio of a game. So let's try to make a perfect match. They sound okay. Okay. Since our conference is called Casual Connect, and we are here all Casual Connect people, I've got some examples about casual games. So, as I said, we've been dealing with many developers, and we've been working on many casual games, and I want to show you some typical pictures from typical casual games. Well, please show us cemeteries. So every casual game has its own cemetery, has its own little cemetery. And we are musicians and sound designers. We have to make some atmosphere for it. And this thing is very interesting because when we start working on audio landscape for this picture, developers almost always, they tend to think square. So we have the cemetery here on the video, and they want us to make like an audio cemetery. So like something like that. So what do we have here? We have a video cemetery. We have an audio cemetery, like cemetery. What the sense? And we always like do little fights with developers. What can we do here? You know, the music. I will be talking about the music here. The music is a language, and this language has tons of emotions. Besides depression or sorrow or loss or some tragedy, and musicians, we say that to the developers, musicians are taught to use this language, and they can take players somewhere beyond these graves. So why don't we why don't we have to think square in this case? Let's what do we imagine exactly when we are at the cemetery? Being a cemetery makes you think about eternity or something like that. So let's listen to these music examples and try not to think square. Last one. So I'm trying to say that we have to trust the expert. We have to trust the expert. We have to let them use their expertise. This is it about music and sound design. And now some couple of words about voiceovers. So if we can do beautiful music, we can do beautiful sound design, but there's always one more question. Something could show the players from a game. Of course, I'm talking about voiceovers, and bad voiceovers always start from bad scripts. And so Will Bucknum will tell us something interesting about voiceovers.
Doing a little dance. 1 second. Under.
Yes. Okay.
I'll put this down. Thank you. Okay. Where are we? So, voiceovers. I'm Will. So, as he said, all bad scripts can lead to bad voiceovers, which can then kind of ruin your game, or at least your game's atmosphere. I'm talking here mostly about casual games, but this can also help describe even smaller games. So, good scripts start with a good story. So what actually makes a good story? You have to have believable characters, an interesting plot, and humor and/or drama. So believable means that the characters actually would react in some way like a real person. And what I'll give you some examples here pretty soon that will help you understand how we commonly in these casual games make characters act completely unbelievable, and it makes it almost impossible to act in a way that's good. Interesting plot. I have an example about plot that I'll show you in a second. And humor in our drama, players need to be entertained in one way. So you either make them laugh, you make them feel happy, or you give them tension, something to make them want to go further and to solve the problem and to get out of whatever situation they're in. So there needs to be some sort of tension. Those are the two main approaches. And so, for instance, there's many hidden object games where you might think that the whole point of the voiceovers is just to get through the scene so you can get to the screen where you're looking for objects. But actually, it should be the other way around. The hidden object scenes are actually leading you through a story, and the story is what drives the game forward. So you have to focus on the story. So first thing, turning a vision into reality. So you craft a script from a good story, then you hand it over to someone like me, the voiceover director, and I hope that you allow me to manage and adjust the script. The scripts always can be improved, I think, by having the voiceover director work with the actors. And if you just don't trust the voiceover director and the actors to do what they're the best at, do this exactly the way we say, don't change a word, it's going to come out a little stale and it's not going to be as believable. Secondly, clear character descriptions. You might say, oh, just, you know, he's 25 years old, give him a slight accent of some kind, that's enough of a description. But it's not much of a description. And if you have something really strongly in your mind about what you want in a game, give something for us to work with. Using actors as references is great. You know, Clint Eastwood, Johnny Depp, Samuel L. Jackson, these are the kind of actors everybody knows, and it gives us a starting place to have a good discussion about what a character should sound like. So that's just a suggestion to you. And if you don't know exactly what you want, then give the freedom to the director and the actors to use their imaginations and run with it. So, moving forward towards my first example that I want to play for you. Cliches. By cliches, there's these certain plots that these casual games have over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And if you look on the review boards for these games on Big Fish, you will see sometimes gamers say, this would be such a fun game, but it's exactly like everything else I've seen. I'm so sick of it. And there's two good examples here. First one is the game. There's some game about ghosts, and it starts with characters, and they're driving into a small town, and then they get lost or they get driven off the road, and then it's even more of a cliche if there's fog everywhere. We've seen this. We need to do something else. The second example, anything with pirates where they speak too much like the stereotypical pirate. Sleep with the fishes, fish food, landlubbers, matey, skirt. We need more interesting characters. These are okay if you're making a game for like 5 or 6 year olds, but adults, they need a little bit more. So don't treat your audience, especially since a lot of these casual games are made for like middle-aged women, don't treat them like little kids. Let's make something really good for them. Okay, so here is my first example. So this is, I created this based on some things I've seen, of an introduction to a game with a narration. So here's a narration to a game. It's about a minute long. Just let me know what you think.
Long, long ago, the Miller family was the best family in all of Rockburg. John Miller was elected mayor and was well respected by all, until that one night when everything went wrong. The curse on the witch of Rockburg turned him and all the citizens of Rockburg into prisoners of this bewitched town. None could leave and would be forever preserved as ghosts as long as the curse persisted.
So, I say, what is wrong with starting a game with this way? Everything. There's a couple important ideas here. First is, don't narrate the whole story of the game before you get started. Tell the story as the game goes. So that's a very important thing. Secondly, starting this way, it's very, very, very difficult to really immerse yourself in the game because the storyline's kind of silly, kind of cheesy, so we don't really get into it that much. Don't use that kind of narration. Have the characters talk with each other to create the story advancement, even if you're going to do something silly like that. Next thing, the script has to match the character. You have rich people in games, and you have maybe middle class and poor people in games. They talk differently. They come from different backgrounds, so they talk differently, and they need to sound like what they should sound like. And also, I have two examples here. And then major emotional events need to sound like a major emotional event. If somebody hears something tragic happens in their life, they're going to react like it. They're not going to be somewhat okay with it. And so I'll give you an example there. So let's start with the first one. This is a typical upper-class conversation. So I'll give you two examples. One is based on kind of a script sort of things I get all the time, and another one is I've improved it to make it match more. So here's the first example.
Are you meeting Douglas tonight?
Yes, Father. He's taking me to a place on the river again. You know, where we had brunch with the Spencer Wilsbys before seeing the cricket game.
Great, dear. Oh, speak of the devil, that must be him arriving now out there. Hey, everyone, good to see you. How are things going here?
It's so great, Douglas. Just great. So, what's the news?
Hey, you wouldn't believe it, Christine. I just got back from going on a good old hunt with Harold Morris and their university friends. Actually, I did really good and killed these pheasants here, which I'd like to give you all as gifts. Good job, Dougie. Thanks a lot.
We're kind of running out of time. So you hear it's like it's okay, you understand the story, but it could be better because it doesn't really feel like you're seeing these people here. You're hearing something different. So let's get a little more aristocracy. I don't know. There's not really a word for it, but more aristocratic. Second version. See if you can hear the difference with some minor changes to the script.
Chrissy, dear, are you meeting with Douglas again for dinner tonight?
Yes, Papa. He's taking me to that wonderful place on the river again. You know, where we met the Spencer Wilsbys for brunch before attending that cricket match.
Ah, that's great, dear. Oh, look, dear, I think that's him arriving now. Hello. So good to see you all. How are things here at the estate?
Marvelous, Douglas. Just marvelous. And what news bring with you to us today?
I'm so glad you asked, Christine. I've returned from a great hunt with Harold Morris and their friends from the university. Indeed, I had great success and offer you and your family these pheasants, which I hope you'll kindly accept. Oh, congratulations, Douglas. Thank you.
I think you can get it. I hope you heard the difference. So the script needs to match the characters, and if the dialogue isn't written in the way that the character would speak, you're not going to hear it correctly. Okay, finally, inappropriate emotional reaction. Characters are always in situations where they are hearing something interesting in their life and they should have some sort of emotional reaction to it. But oftentimes in scripts I notice that the character doesn't react like, oh my God, this has really happened. It seems unreal. And for me, when I see these games and this happens, it makes it completely just like, whatever, okay. And if this sort of thing, is happening when you play a demo version of the game, that's, for me, I would just stop and not buy it. But here, listen to the example, and hopefully you'll laugh, but it's serious because we don't want this. So here we go.
Hey, Melissa, I want to tell you something. I know your parents have been missing for years and you've been looking for them. Actually, they were killed by an evil scientist who is trying to take over the world. What you probably don't know is that you have a sister who is alive and well in Dublin. You should talk to her.
I have a sister? How can I find her?
I'll give you the address. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
So, and I see this kind of thing. She just found out that her parents are dead, and she says, I have a sister? This happens in games. Don't. Make sure that if a character's told something big and monumental about their lives, that they have an appropriate reaction. So just to bring everything together at the end, when everything comes together right, the game becomes unforgettable. Good audio atmosphere creates a strong link between the player and the game, so if the sound, the music, and the voiceovers don't put you in some sort of alternate universe where things don't work, that's great, and you'll bring the players into your world, and they'll be with you. So that's all we have. Thank you. Here's our contact if you'd like to get a hold of us. And is there any questions before we leave? How do we go about? So we make a sound list of what's needed, and then if we have a build of the game, we'll make what we think would fit the best, and then we'll send it to the developer, and if there's any reason that doesn't work, then we'll make adjustments and send it back. You mean sound effects, right? Okay.
Do you have any suggestions for developers on budgets, like tools or tips they can't afford to hire a sound studio like themselves?
What kind of game?
Casual games.
Casual games? Well, I mean, there's a couple things you can do. For voiceovers, use fewer characters, because each character you have in the game, you're going to have to hire an actor to do that role. So perhaps you focus on 1 or 2 key characters for the voices instead of getting a cast of like 8 or 10 characters. That'll bring costs down a bit. I don't know, if you need sounds, you need sounds. You need a good audio atmosphere. As far as that, I don't know how you would decrease the cost on that so much. Yeah.
Do you think at what point should be the most optimal time? Let's say there's a development phases, right? Should be the audio guys
Mm-hmm.
get involved in the development. Do you think should be the end or?
We always want to be involved as early as possible. Music, you need to have something that you see in the game, so some pictures or some video or the build itself for the music. Sound effects, usually the same. For voiceovers, I always want to get a script or an idea of things as soon as you have something, because then I can help you fix it before it's too late and stuck in the game and you can't do anything about it. So if I see something horrible like what I just played at the last one, I can fix it before it's like there, and then I have to try to I can try to correct what they say, but it's still the same content. You need more flexibility that way is the best. Yeah.
Are you mainly involved in creating sort of static audio assets, or are you also get involved in algorithmically generating music, stuff that's where the music changes on the fly based on gameplay? Like, for example, direct music.
Yeah.
I would say that yes, we can be involved from doing these things like music which changes, depends on game events. It's all depends on how developers treat us. So if they treat us like we are just hands who makes what's in developers' mind. So, but if developers treat us like studio who really involves who really influences into the game, so we can take part on the early study of the game development.
Anything else?